Oh, you never know what we're going to talk about.
Titanic, I like it.
We're going to talk about legislation. We're going to do a quick legislative update because a bunch of crap happened this week that was important because we blogged about it. And there's always plenty of important things, but we don't always blog about them because there's only so many hours in the day. But we want to get to that stuff, and then we'll dig into the details, the gears, the roots, the oil, the whatever you want to do at 9:30. And we can even talk about the Titanic if you want.
Am I back on?
You are.
Yeah.
I heard you bump your cup into your microphone. All right, so good morning, Max. Some things happened at the State House this week. We had a vote on casinos. We had a what's the other one that was big that we wrote about? SB 116. Vote on Vermont carry or
SB 30
licenseless
still.
carry. SB 30 still lingering in the woods.
It's coming up Wednesday.
So,
unfortunately, the House Finance Committee, I testified against this. They heard 4 hours of testimony. The first 3 hours was elected officials from the North Country, from Coos County, coming down and saying, we need this, we have all our young people, they need jobs, they're all going to the southern part of the state or leaving the state, and we want to have them stick around and work at the Abbey.
Menial jobs in Balsams.
Right. And they won't all be minimum wage jobs. That's what they were saying. We want to have them around. 1,700 jobs, they said, but they're mostly low-end service sector jobs. So I testified very briefly on the bill.
that was the wrong microphone.
So I testified briefly on the bill, and I said, we've got. I looked at the actual figures. It's $2.619 billion in taxpayer-funded guaranteed state debt.
Billion or million?
Billion.
Billion?
Over $2,000 for every man, woman, and child in the state. And our bond rating has dropped. We're down to AA1 according to Moody's, and I think one of the others also has us down a notch. And if they take on another $28 million, now they're talking $30 million in debt for the Balsams, which would allow the Business Finance Authority to expand yet again, then that's one more chink in the armor.
So to be clear, that $2 billion in debt is total debt for the state, and what you're saying is we can't afford to pile any more on because we don't have the income.
Correct. We don't have the debt-to-income ratio. And it would be like somebody who's already, we're about average for bond rating, we're about average for debt. Mm-hmm. But we have a lot of other liabilities. We have the unfunded pension fund liability, where we're hearing estimates ranging from $4 billion to $14 billion. And we don't know how that's going to pan out. That depends on what the economy is doing. But our bond rating is important because we pay many tens of millions of dollars a year in interest on that debt. It's almost $100 million a year. So just a very slight change in the bond rating increases our interest rate. And if that interest rate goes up, then that's going to be many, many millions of dollars that are going to have to be pulled out of the budget to pay for that. So the problem is, even if the Balsams bailout works out just fine, passing it would send a strong indicator to Wall Street, to the bond market, that, hey, New Hampshire has become one of those states again that likes to bail out private projects. Well, now they're talking about all the other private projects like Business Express and the Wentworth. Business Express was that air shuttle service that went out of business filed for Chapter 11 in 1996 and went out of business shortly thereafter, leaving the state with $15 million in loan guarantees on our books and no way to pay it off. So we're still stuck with all that debt. All of these loan guarantees, they don't all get paid off. A lot of them just sit there on our state debt and just continue year after year, and we have to pay the interest on all of it.
Yeah, and that's like co-sponsoring or co-signing a loan for your kid's vehicle, and then the kid does a runner. You're still liable. If they're not responsible, sorry, you still are.
Right.
And here's a perfect example of corporate welfare, that which the Democrats especially, but the Republicans to a smaller degree, have all wailed against. But here again, folks, all corporate welfare is bad unless we're actually attached to it.
And the House Finance Committee voted 22-0 ought to pass. And the only reason they couldn't consent calendar it, well, I guess they don't want to be reelected, because the public comments online are overwhelmingly against this. This is viewed as crony capitalism or crony socialism. It's viewed as a payoff. It's, it would be one thing if it were, Uber or some type of low-cost van pool service for poor or elderly. But this is for the rich. The Balsams is not for your average workaday person. The Balsams is intended to be luxurious, extravagant. It's meant to be the Titanic. It's meant to be, replete with
butlers.
Exactly.
And
servants
maids.
And maids and housekeeping service and nothing but 5-star extravagance everywhere. And yet the ordinary blue-collar workers of New Hampshire are going to have to pay to subsidize this big project that's already gone under. And the argument is, well, wait a minute, it went under last time for a reason. It's because it's way the hell out nowhere. It's the only thing connecting it. There's no airport, there's no seaport, there's no connection except for a simple, broken up, frost-heave, 2-lane road, and nothing's been done about the problems that led to its downfall the first time.
How far off a major highway actually is it, Max?
I don't know. I've never been up there. Most New Hampshireites have never been up there. Most New Englanders have never been up there.
Steve, I thought your post was great, equating the Balsams with the current state of public housing. With all those pictures.
We're going to have Greg Klein on later, and one of his co-writers, Brian Griffiths, was making some important connections between, the fact that Baltimore had been run by Democrats for 50, 60 years without any Republican influence at all, and how all the investments in the city that they had been made in places where it wasn't beneficial to the people who were rioting right now, who are complaining or claiming to complain about certain economic conditions. And their part of the city is being destroyed. They're destroying it themselves. And there's probably not... the Democrats and the people with the money and the cronies aren't going to invest that. They're not going to invest in that part of the city. It's this attitude that the crony capitalism. This is another example of that. This is, he says tax increment financing, TIFs, see the city actually float bonds for private businesses to build things and hope that the property taxes make up for the bonds later. Just as one example. He has other examples in there. But they're spending this money, they're making tax deals, they're accumulating debt. For what? They're not helping people who really need it. And then you talk about needing to help these people, the same people. Oh, they need help. They need this. They need that. So we're talking about the Balsams. I'm thinking, all right, so you put $28-30 million into the Balsams. Now you're going to say, well, nobody can get there. We should taxpayer back an airport or a road or commuter rail. And where does this take us? It doesn't take us anywhere. We spend another couple $100 million to bring people to a place nobody was going to go to in the first place that we're still paying for.
Right, and let's face it, you're not going to get people to go to a 5-star place that's too far out of the way, unless it's a relatively low-cost 5-star place to stay at, and yet you're expecting to employ these local Americans at reasonable living wages to staff the place. In what you described there, Max, basically overstaff the place to have flashy flunkies everywhere, as the saying goes. And you don't see that anymore. The only place you see that is places like communist China, where the hotels have more people standing around in uniform looking flashy than you can shake a stick at, precisely because they're paid next to nothing.
And let's say...
And they're on the government payroll anyway.
Let's say they build the Balsams and turn it into this shiny gem in the middle of nowhere, right? What are those same Democrats going to do? Those same progressives are going to say, look at the wealth inequality we just paid for with your taxpayer dollars. And then maybe if we were in Baltimore, they'd start a riot.
Wait till the
Where would they
minimum
riot
wage
to?
people come up here and start saying, all those locals at the Balsams now, you need to pay them $15 an hour. Yeah,
That's right.
This is going to be a economic project for the academics forever.
The same people are talking about raising the minimum wage to $14.25 an hour or $16 an hour, and now they're talking about creating some $7.25 an hour jobs, a lot of minimum wage jobs. Which is it going to be? Are you for $7.25 an hour jobs, or are you against them?
Well, you're already seeing in California where they've raised the rates. You also see in Seattle where they raised the minimum wages. Businesses are doing exactly what a lot of us said. They're either shutting down or they're moving somewhere else, period.
Or they're automating where possible.
Well, let me give you a story. I just went to Applebee's for the first time in a long time. I like the place. We just haven't been there. Well, guess what's on the table in every single table at Applebee's in Tilton, New Hampshire?
Automated ordering
You've
kiosk?
got a little automated, well, part of it is for games. They haven't gone full bore yet. I think they're just trying to slide it in. But if I wanted to get an additional drink, if I wanted to buy an appetizer, if I wanted to buy a dessert, I could order it from this little tablet. And the waitress was very happy to show me how to use it because, at their current staffing, I think it made life a lot easier, which also meant that they don't have to hire additional people to make her life easier that way. And at Applebee's, like a lot of restaurants, it's not your waitress that brings out your
Somebody
food.
else's waitress.
It's somebody else. I mean,
so the average restaurant, I did some research on the minimum wage law. The average restaurant in America makes gross about $1.1 million a year. The owner in net profits makes about $82,000 a year.
Yeah.
So what's their payroll? Well, the payroll for a fast food, low service restaurant is only $250,000 a year, but for a high service waiter, waitress, take care of your order, bring
fine
your
dining.
check, $350,000 a year for the same restaurant. So the difference, in effect, between having all the additional wait staff, waiter, waitresses, is about $100,000 a year in payroll. So they're really working to do that, to try to save themselves about $100,000 a year if they can, minimize their.
Right. The waitresses can be around a little bit less often and just smile sweetly. The bus kids can run out with the glasses of water and the food from the kitchen. And the rest of it, you can do self-service.
So you have 5 people on staff instead of 7.
All right, we'll be right back. Oh, lower insurance costs, too, while we're at it. Huh? More details.
Obamacare.
We're going to get into the weeds on some other stuff. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
When asked whether she still supports Obamacare, Senator Jeanne Shaheen said,
"Yes, I do continue to support the law. We're beginning to see some positive results."
How can Senator Shaheen say we're seeing positive results when 22,000 of our neighbors have already lost their health insurance? What's worse, the Boston Globe reports the state's only health insurance provider radically reduced the number of hospitals in their network, forcing some people to drive over an hour for lab work, even when there's a hospital within a few miles of their home. When pressed about lack of access, Shaheen said,
There are some hospitals that are not covered, unfortunately, and I certainly hope that's going to change.
Jeanne Shaheen promised us we could keep our doctors and our healthcare coverage. Now she hopes we can get to a local hospital? Call Senator Shaheen at 603-647-7500. Tell her we need more than hope. We need leadership. Paid for by Citizens for a Strong New Hampshire.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning. You're listening to GrokTALK.
Grok TV.